Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Today I am going to start discussion of final report. Right? So when it comes to final report, your word count is 10,000. Remember that 10,000 words. Right? There are 5 chapters. Introduction, literature review, methodology, discussion, conclusion, and recommendation. These are the 5 chapters, right? And we have already some part, not 100%, some part of the chapters, introduction and methodology already discussed, right? Some part of the introduction and methodology already discussed, right? So I allocate the word count, literature review, I think we can go for around 2,500 words. Discussion, 3,000 words. Conclusion and recommendation, you can go. The methodology, you can go 2,000 words. Here you can go 1,500. Here 1,000. But the other array. Approximately, you can follow this word count. The majority of the words you need to allocate in the main literature. But overall, end of the day, you have to achieve 10,000 plus or minus 10%. You have allowance. Maximum you can go 10,000 plus 10%. Minimum you can go 10,000 minus 10%. That means 9,000 is the minimum, the maximum is 11,000. Right? Oh, end of the day, you have to manage. So why I have given this split between the 5 chapters for your convenience? Madhya. මේකේ රූල් එකක් එක්සැක්ට්ලි මෙතනින් ඉවර කරන්න ඕනි කියලා එකක් නැහැ හොනේ 2500 ඉවර කරන්න ඕනි කියලා එකක් නැහැ. But somewhere you have to manage. Otherwise you will not be able to that achieve the 10,000 word count. ඒකින් තමයි ඔක දෙන්න තියෙන්නේ. Right? Right. Correct? Kuliyanata. Next week I will share the documents to the LMS. All the details I will share. Materials I will share with you. Right. Now let's start the introduction. Right. Introduction. Topic එක පයිලස් කරන්නේ Now, introduction is almost equal, 99% equal to your proposal. That's what I told you that this has already been discussed. The content of the proposal is equal to the introduction. Right. The introduction is, this is the chapter you introduce your topic and your problem. So that is what we did, proposal also. Right. But difference is, at the proposal and at the final report level, two different levels. Proposal level, proposal level and final level. Two different. Proposal level, you have no massive idea, inside details of the research. Just identify the topic and the aims, objectives, problem, that's it. Very, right, that slightly you identify the method of analysis. How do you collect the data and how do you analyze the data, right? But at the final report level, you go through the journal articles, you have a thorough understanding. But then you can, introduction, you have sections, chapter 1, background. Number 2, rationale. Problem statement. Problem statement. Research aim and objectives. Theoretical framework. Research questions. Method of analysis. What do you get to think? Proposal same thing you can apply for the introduction. Right? But difference is you can fine tune, you can add more details to the introduction. You can change. Remember that. Correct? You can change the content so that when you do your real research at the final level, you get more details, you have more information, then you can change all these areas. Right? Understand? Then we background rationale we discussed. That's what I told. We have already discussed this concept. Then I make a moral question. Any question you have? So finally, you have to manage 1,500 words to write your introduction. Introduction is very important. Why? This is the first chapter you are bringing, you are giving to the examiner to read. So you have to very powerfully construct your content of the introduction. That is the background section in the first section. You have to very clearly, background section is background section is හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න ඕගොල්ලෝගේ පරණ බැච් වල ඉන්න අයියලා අක්කලා සෑහෙන දෙනෙක් කෝල් කරනවා මට මම නෙමෙයි උගන්නලා තියෙන්නේ හරිනේ දැන් ලියා ගන්න බැරුව අනාතලා ඉන්නවා හොඳේ හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ මාව හම්බෙලා තින්නේ ඕගොල්ලෝ මාත් එක්ක හරි 1 to 1 යන්න ඕන මොකද මම මොකද සුපර්වයිසර් කියලා රයිට් මම හරියට හරි ඩීටේල් එක දීලා තියෙනවා මේ right so when I ask right ඇත්තටම ඕගොල්ලෝගේ ඩිසිප්ලින් එකක් නැහැ. තරහින් ප්‍රොබ්ලම්. එන්නේ නැහැ. class in there regular the other katiyak ne ida idea godak kai topic එක finalize කරගෙන meeting හිටියා I understand අද කට්ටියක් ආවා topic එකක් ගාලා finalize කරගෙන යන්න ඊළඟ සතියේ පැත්ත බලා දෙන්නේ නැහැ latter part of the program I know මගේ memory මාර sharp ඔයගොල්ලෝ මාව දකින්නකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ මාව කෝල් කරනකොට මම දන්නවා මේගොල්ලෝ පන්ති ආවද නැද්ද කියලා මම ඒ අනුව තමයි ට්‍රීට් කරන්නේ මට මතක තියාගන්න some students every day they are coming එයාට මම ට්‍රීට් කරනවා හොඳට තමයි fair පන්තිත් එන්නේ නැතුව රෙකෝඩින් එකක් අහන්න නැතුව එකපාරට ඇවිල්ලා මගෙන් අහනකොට සර් රිසර්ච් එකේ දේවල් I will not help 100% I will not help දැන් අතන මම අද කැන්සල් කරන්න දීප ක්ලාස් එක මට ඇත්තටම සනීපනේ හොඳට නෝට් එක ඒක මම කරන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් unless hospitalized I go for the lectures ඒක මගේ over 10 years discipline එක right today I have no energy right හැබැයි මම I will continue your work because you have limited time frame so you must also do some commitment and the sacrification for this research වා කොහොමුණත් අන්තිමටම මේක හිර වෙන්න හරියට මේ ටික අහන් ඉන්නේ නැත්නම් now when I ask right when I ask background ඒ දුර වහන්න බැරිද so when I ask what to write in the background you must be able to now tell me මොනවද මේ background එකේ ලියන්නේ කතා කරන්න බෑ ක්ලාස් එකේ අදන් දිගටම කරයි don't do that ඒක මට ඒතකොට මට හිතෙනවා ඔයා මට රෙස්පෙක්ට් කරන්නේ නැහැ ඒක කරන්න එපා right වෙලාවට ඔයගොල්ලෝ කවදාද දවසක ජොබ් එකකට ගියොත් දවස් 3න් ගෙදර යන්න නැහැ වෙලාවට වැඩ නැහැ අනිවාර්යයෙන් මම වගේ බොස් කෙනෙක් නම් හම්බෙන්න එපා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරා මම 3 වෙනි දවසේ කියන ගෙදර යන්න කියලා 100% sure මම කියන රිසර්ච් වල ගෙදර යන්න මේකේ මොකද කරන්නේ right you must maintain the discipline first day second day right okay now we coming to the latter part of your research these are the serious areas reduction and the chapters now you are in the chapters then මේ පහ හොඳට උඩට දාගත්තම තමයි කවදාද දවසක when you start your research so you can write easily නැත්නම් මමත් නැහැ කවුරුත් නැහැ different supervisor you will be lost සමහර අය මට කතා කරනවා sir I don't know how to analyze the data how to use the SPSS and all but I support them right you are my first batch first students official ඒක හරියට ගන්න advantage right දැන් හැමෝගෙම topic one go through කරලා තියෙනවා I remember සමහර අයගේ topic one reject කරලා ටක් ගාලා එක ලියලා මට දාන්න මට කතා කරා right background එකේ වා දාන්න ඕනේ especially what you have to introduce your independent and dependent variable and your industry and your real problem of the research you got to introduce that under the background you already done now in your proposal this is what you did right but and rationale is why do you conduct this research why do you conduct this research right why do you conduct this research mean what is the research gap and what is the benefit doing this research I discuss this so everybody identify the research gap maybe an industry gap geographical gap or a methodological gap the Godak article all the article what you collected maybe they focused or they done for the Europe maybe Latin America but not for the Asia and especially for the Sri Lanka right so ඔයගොල්ලෝ තේරුණේ වැඩි මගේ පැත්තේ කල්පනා කරන්න කොහොමයි එනවා මම කොහොමද concentrate කරන්න කියලා මම හරිද වැරදිද කියනවා ඔගොල්ලෝ ජෙන්සී හින්දා හොල්ලලා ගන්න ඕන මන්නම් කියන්නේ. ඒ ඔගොල්ලෝ හරි වෙනස්. right? ඔගොල්ලෝ හිතන විදියත් වෙනස්. දැන් ඔගොල්ලෝ හිතන විදිය මම කියන්නද? මේ වැඩේ කරාම බං එන්නේ කෙරි යන්නේ කියයි. ඔබිතර. අනිවාර්යයෙන් හිතනවා. ඔයාගේ වැඩේ කරන්න අපිට ඕන අපි කතා කරන්නම්කෝ. අපේ ක්ලාස් එකේ කතා කරන ඉංජිනේරත් අපි 1 මිලියන් ගෙවලාට මෙතනට එන්නේ. I know. ඔබ එනකම් මගේ බලහදී. අපේ නිදාස අපිට භුක්ති විඳින්න දෙන්න. අපිට ඔන්ලයින් එන්න දෙන්න නේද? ඈ? ඔගේ ප්‍රැක්ටිකල් ප්‍රශ්න ඇති නමුත් ඕක ඩිසිප්ලින් එකක් හරියට මේන්ටේන් කරන්න future when you go for a corporate sector you will be in trouble 100% sure. You can start your own business. Entrepreneurship. Yes, very good. Make it cover lambe mata mataka entrepreneurship research check karno howde. Howde man. Olle karno mata mataka na howde. Fun man. Uda uda man. My car my pet. මම සතුට කතා කරන entrepreneurship කියන ස්පෙෂල් ස්පීච් එකක් මට මෙතන කියන්න බෑ දැන් entrepreneurship කියන්නේ not easy ඒක තමයි අමාරු වැඩ ජොබ් එකක් කරලා ගිහිල්ලා දෙස් එකකට කුටුවරක් කරලා පඩි අරන් ගෙදරට පුළුවන් but you taking huge risk remember that right and rationale you have to pick very clearly what is the research gap then you got to justify your rationale. You got to justify your topic. Why do you select this? There is a gap in Sri Lanka manufacturing banking industry, not heavily covered. But few articles are available. A lack of attention has been done. Right? Paid. In the rationale, like what we have. In a problem statement, you have to very clearly specify your research problem. Without a problem, you can't do any research. Problem maker to research check no. Why do we need a problem? That is where you create a new knowledge. New knowledge. Knowledge means? Knowledge क्या है? The research check करने creating a new knowledge. It's a process of creating a new knowledge. What do you mean by new knowledge? Knowledge क्या है मगर? The research के end output के मगर. What is your end output? New information. You remember first day I took a example. පළවෙනිම example එක මතකද මම research එක උගන්වන්න ගත්තා. Right. අර අපි කිව්වේ මොකක් හරි මම ගත්ත topic එක මට මතක නැහැ මම ගත්තේ vacation එකක් හරි university එකක් හරි select කරනවා. මම කිව්වේ ඒකේ data collect කරන්නේ කොහොමද? නේද? Google වලින් කිව්වා කාගෙන් හරි අහලා කිව්වා you discuss lot of things right but end of the day what you do is you create a new information to the industry right so that is the problem statement you have to very clearly identify your problem of the research now listen very carefully your problem the making would make a pair we will do it. Right? Okay, the whiteboard test. Right? What about that? Problem में क्या है? अरे देरी नहीं मटा था इतना ही देरी नहीं था Yes. But I want to do the मन्नता thousand net make करन. Really, last entire week I spent so much of time at the CA. with the case study students. Right? Miss what is the deadline for the proposal? How the deadline for the proposal? Deadline people are what is the deadline? You ever read it? Proposal deadline is both. August. August වල තියෙන deadline. You must be aware of your deadlines, huh? ඒකට අනිවාර්ය deadline එකක් තියෙනවා. ඕකට මයිද presentation එකකුත් තියෙනවා. නේද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ වගාරි present කරන්න ඕනේ මේ proposal එක. මම හිතන්නේ. If I'm not mistaken, මම වැරදිද දන්නේ නැහැ. I heard it. August නේද? ඒකේ තියෙනවා presentation එක. නැහැ. එහෙම දන්නේ නැහැ. ආව වාඩි වුණා ගෙදර ගියා. You have to be aware of your deadlines and your requirements of the exam. මේක ඉගෙන ගන්න. මේක ඔක්කොම ඔලුවට දාගන්න නැත්නම් ප්‍රශ්නයක්. මෙයා ගන්න. Problem එක කියන්නේ පුතේ අහගන්න. Your problem represent dependent variable. You go to your each topic. Your dependent variable is your problem. Now see your topic and see. ඔයාගේ dependent variable එක තමයි your problem of the research. මම අහන්නේ what is the problem කියලා. That is your dependent variable. There is a problem. And your solution is, so you are trying to find the relationship for a solution. Solution represents the independent variable. That is where you are going to evaluate the relationship between how independent variable impact on this dependent variable. That is what you do. Working capital management on financial performance. There is an issue in the financial performance. But you are going to evaluate how working capital management impact on the financial performance. Understand? Your working capital is your independent variable. That is your solution. When you improve, when you that maintain and control the proper working capital management, that directly, positively, negatively impact. And negative evaluate kara. Whether positive impact or whether negative impact. Right? And aim and objectives I'm not going to discuss. You have already done. Theoretical framework, you know how to do that. Research questions you can decide. And the method of analysis. Yes, I have discussed method of analysis at the proposal, but different chapter I have chapter 3. Under that I will discuss in detail. Right. This is what your introduction. But make a note next week share කරනවා. ඔයාගේ LMS එක you can have it. හොඳ document එකක් තියෙනවා I will share it. ඇත්තටම කියනවා නම් මේ document මත depend වෙන්නත් එපා. මේ note එක ඔයාත් research කරන්න. You ask these areas how to write them. Right? Technology is there. Right. So that is your introduction. So you can use it, you can write as it is. Now we are going to discuss most important area of the research. Literature release chapter 2. Now listen very carefully. Because තමයි වගේ දෙවෙනි chapter මේකවා දන්නේ නැහැ. You don't know anything about this. Right? Topic එක ගන්න. What topic එක? Right. Now listen very carefully. Mama Dakina Vidya, as per my understanding, over the last 10 years, 15 years in research, this is the most critical area of the research. If you know this, if you can do this well, your entire research will be successful. Why? Literature means history. History of the work. History of your topic, history of your problem. Hammer topic history එකක් තියෙනවද නැද්ද? There's a history. What is this history? මම මොකද මේ history එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ? ඔයා topic එක decide කරලා තියෙනවා working capital management impact on the financial performance. මම කියනවා මේකට history එකක් තියෙනවා. මොකද්ද මේකේ meaning? ඔයාට history එකක් නැද්ද? You as a researcher is going to create a future, new history, future. Based on the history, based on the past. Before you do anything, you need to understand clearly what is the history of this topic, what is the history of this problem. History means existing knowledge. අපි අද තුන්වෙනි දවසේ නෙමෙයි. දවස් 30 existing knowledge. මොකක්ද existing knowledge කියන්නේ? What is the existing knowledge mean? The work has already been done for your topic. ඒ කියන්නේ අතන මොකද? Existing journal articles, existing work තමයි history එක. හරිද? ඇයි ඕක අපි දැනගන්න ඕනේ? ඒ කියන්නේ some past journal articles you got to read and understand. Analyze කරන්න ඕනේ. Review කියන්නේ you got to analyze the history. Got to analyze the history. You got to analyze the existing knowledge. What work has already been done? Previous researchers, they have already done some work. What are the reasons? Why do we need to know history? What is the reason? Here are the reasons. Number one. හරියට නිකන් අපි ගත්ත first example එක මොකද්ද? marriage එකනේ. දෙන්නට දැනගන්න ඕනේ history එකනේ. මු කොහෙන්ද ආවේ? මු කොහේ ගියද දන්නේ නැහැ. මු බොරු කියනවත් දන්නේ නැහැ. ඇයි ඒක අපි දැනගන්න ඕනේ? ඇයි අපි මේ work එක මේ existing knowledge එක දැනගන්න ඕනේ? What is the reason? එන්න දෙම feel වෙන්නේ නැද්ද එහෙම එකක්? ඔයා හදිසියෙම mistakenly if you don't know anything about history, you conduct a research and know exactly the same work has been repeated everywhere. Work has been already done. අපි ඔයත් එහෙම එකක්ම කරලා. දැන් මොකද තියෙන benefit එක? ඔයාගේ research එකයි පරණ research එකයි. Is there any benefit? Right. මම ඉතින් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ක්ලාස් එක මාරු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ෂුවර්ද? මොකක්ද? රිසර්ච්ද? මම අදමයි දැක්කේ ඒකයි. අද දාන්නේ. first day ද? Right. हम बहुत की तो उगलू देना है बिल्कुल डिस्टर्ब था बात एक के मैं इन्हें टॉपिक के रुमाई लेस करता है 100% श्योर मेरे किसी ने करने में वो इन्हें में लेक्चर काटने में वो इन्हें टॉपिक के रुमाई लेस करने पर टाका माइलेस करने तो लोगों ने अन्य प्लाने अरे रिसर्च के तो करना प्लाने नहीं टॉपिक के माइलेस करेगा तो बस मेडिकल या ना प्लान पास नहीं अन्य मेवा दान नौको एक कार्ड ऑफ बाइनरी में now what I mohammed antil क्यों गया research now when you know the work the previous researcher that he has already done some work and you also going to do the same topic but different context. But if you know the past work, past existing knowledge and all, you can avoid the duplication, no? Number one reason you can avoid duplication. The duplicate of the work can be eliminated because you already know some work. They have already been done. Then why? You cannot create a new knowledge. You cannot give the contribution to the existing body of the knowledge. Or then research. You can research time cost Number two, as a result of that, you can clearly identify the research gap. The research gap identify where literature you may review 50 journal articles. Example, 40 articles, exactly 45 articles have been done, have been focused on some different geographies and all, some different industries and all. Now you can definitely pick the right geography and the right industry based on this knowledge. That is the literature gap. That is the research gap. Why are you doing that? Topic discuss topic can be, there are so many topics. Right. Now, but at the proposal level also you identify a research gap. At the introduction level, at the final report level, you can refine, you can fine tune your actual research gap. That's no problem. You can change, right? So, and thirdly, you can identify theories and factors of the topic. Theories and factors what identify. So when you go through your past work, existing journal article, when you go through, they have identified. They use some theories and factors. They identify. So that is where you can identify the relevant theories and factors of your topic. So when you go through the literature review, right? Mainly key reasons for conducting a literature review. Correct? Hammer journal article second chapter. So when you go through the second chapter, each and every article, you can understand all these things. You can avoid the duplication. You are not going to repeat the same work. And definitely you can identify the research gap. That is where you can fill the research gap. That is where you can bring the new knowledge to the context. So when you fill a gap, that means you're bringing a new knowledge to the context. Right? And identify the theories and the factors. Other coordinated idea. Make group coordinator keep the marble theory. Problem group. Mama දැකපු හොඳම coordinator කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා මේ ගියපු දැන් අන්තිම batch එකේ යැල්ලා මේ strong අර අයිසැක් ගේ අක්කා කෝ නෑද අයිසැක් ගේ ළමයි කියනනේ එයාගේ අක්කා brilliant coordinating me 100% professional right මෙන්න බලන්න ඊළඟට you can identify the theories and factors. Now you already identified under the introduction theoretical framework. Remember that? What are the theories and what are the factors? that can be really fine-tuned when you do this literature. Right. And then there are document format update at the final report level. So when you go through the journal article, you've got to definitely maintain this document format. So what the literature review right? Any questions? Any questions? Topic finalize कर दी, एक और excuse थी, एक और कोई, traffic, other traffic, बड़ा तनाव से नहीं वाली, तमाम की वेटिंग करने चाहिए, लोग की देवल में आना, දැන් ආගන්න උදේට මෙන්න මේ ෆෝමැට් එක. අපි තුමු ඔයා ෆයිනලි සිලෙක්ට් කරගත්තයි කියලා. Last week I explained. මම journal article search करने थी बेटोरे and the manually and the AI both you can use manually I told you. Finally, I can where 150 journal articles. Oh my search कर लो you have 150 journal articles. Right. Related to your topic, not 100% to your topic, but it's relevant topics, relevant articles. My first question, are you going to read all these 150 articles? Puluwan. Our Rinno with the Kian Matapula, Ekasi Panama, Kiono Komar here. Some good. Like a Kion, right? What did you go? Kion? Magan Gilmar Tadala may go down the one. Who got the chartered institute near but Hadalatino syllabus, but then the my theory. Business level, strategic, corporate level, strategic level case studies. Overall strategic level now go on Tino case study. I lazy. I lazy. Moy Tunama case study, Mohammed. The Mandalas case study Tunama. Not easy. But remember that. If you develop your knowledge, skills at this level, research, you can do this without any problem. You have a huge benefit than other students. In a research idea, I can't business level in the level. Chartered syllabus, no research. Remember that. You use this as a benefit for your future. Right? You are not going to read 150 journal articles. But I remember I clearly explained how do you select at least 20 to 30 or 30 to 40. At least 30 to 40 journal articles you have to read, you have to use for this work. Now, how do you bring this 150 to 30 or 40? How do you reduce this number? Man discuss karane de. Karane de mage. Abstract ka kiye bana, title ka kiye bana. Kyun rehta? Nahi. But you what you hai? Now listen very carefully. This is the process you call inclusion and exclusion process. Right? Now, this is called inclusion and exclusion process. If I make a manual work here, you can do the systematically also, you can use the technology also to do this. Now, manually you can do that. Number one, you can read titles. Title like a keyword make a sipana. A title like a keyword make a sipana. Only title like a keyword. All the journal article like a sipana download kar title like a keyword. When you read the titles of each and every 150 journal articles, you can clearly understand what is relevant, what is not relevant. In a way, you can select 100 articles relevant, 50 articles not relevant. That can exclude kara. Include kara 100 articles based on the reading of the title. Correct? And number two, you can do read abstract. There was a journal article will abstract that is the executive summary, as snapshot of the research. When you read the abstract, you can understand entire research, what has been done, what was the research problem, what was the finding, what was the methodology has been used, and entire snapshot is the abstract. When you read the abstract, how many articles you are reading? 100 to 150. 100 abstract you are reading. Out of that, you may identify, right, 50 articles relevant, 50 articles out. Example, now make more knowledge. Make manually at this stage, you will increase your knowledge of the research, right? And thirdly, you can read methodology. Chapter number 3. When research article what the methodology has been used. For example, your research methodology is quantitative research, secondary research, quantitative secondary. Now, select quantitative research to qualitative research. You have to use quantitative research articles. You have to exclude all the qualitative research articles. But if you do a qualitative one, you have to use qualitative research articles, exclude the quantitative. But primary or secondary doesn't matter. You can use both. Right? So out of that, you may end up with 40 is relevant, 10 is out. Now you ended up 40 journal articles might be suitable. Now you clearly, finally, you selected most suitable, most relevant 40 journal articles for your research. That is the process. You end up with a massive knowledge. What do you add? Make a proposal level after the proposal. Right, then go liya. अभी विनाडी 5 minutes break क्या करूं? Right? ये आता तो रहा और आप पास से आपको टॉपिक की करेंगे हमारा बैंकर है आदव तो गुरु रे क्या डिटेल कहता हूं मना देला है जाने बा कहूं चली रे टॉपिक की है टक्का लगी ना आप ओ Lectures have been you have to listen the lectures. I will repeat correct. Then the lecture and come back to me. මට පොඩ්ඩක් කියන්න පුළුවන්ද ඔයගොල්ලන් කාටද එතන එයාට කියන්න බලන්න කෝපි එකක් කියවන්න. Now, after selecting the 40 journal articles, now you are going to read, right? Forty journal articles. You guys are very lucky. Right? Okay, another government supervise 100%. Whatever, right? Again, a relationship में a advantage kan हम message जो reply करना तो वो लोग क्या नो आगे कितनी इम्ना दे I did not reply. Very rare. And somehow maintain the discipline. Right? Thank you. मुंडा रगर के ऊपर मुझे वो कोई देखी रगर 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 सेट कब वो रगर नहीं हुआ मैं रगर डाल तो नहीं दाढ़ी दाढ़ी कोई अभी क्लास है ना मैं मार्केट से जब रहा इसलिए उधर आकर दागरी को ना बहुत उधर निदाग नहीं हो right उधर आकर now these 40 journal articles now you are going to read full text reading when me hataliyana kiyawanna ඕනේ පුතේ journal article hataliya kiyawanna ඕනේ දැන් අහගන්න so that we used to reduce 150 to 40 articles we use the manual process same thing you can do using AI කොහොමද ලියන්නේ AI වලට කියනවා this is my topic can you please provide me most relevant, most applicable 40 journal articles. The references. First you do that. I teach manually technology use I heavily use AI for data collection and data analysis, not to copy paste. Copy paste karne pa. Anna hatariyam ganna. Eka tapparein what de. Ara magkar process එක the AI is doing. Yeah, करना एक accurate, yeah, कर लो आठ दिन हाथ नहीं. एक more accurate. Yes, it is more accurate. I trust the AI that you will train to some extent. Yes. ये बाबा blood report check करा, AI වලට දාලා මට අද predict කරලා predictive AI වලින් මට ලස්සනට දෙනවා result එක දීලා කියනවා මෙන්න ඔයාගේ ප්‍රශ්න ටික මේ ටික ඔයා කරන්න එපා. අද මම ලෙක්චර් කරන්න එපා කිව්වා අංක එක. මම කරන්නේ right අද යන්නේ මම 10ට ගෙදර. ඉතින් ඊපස්සේ යනවා තව යුනිවර්සිටි එක. තරත් උගලට වඩා MBA ළම කාසේ කට් කරන්න බෑ right. දැන් 10ට ගම මම ගෙදර AI කිව්ව කරන්න එපා. හරියට හරියට කියනවා මේ කරොත් ඔය අතමැටික් කලන්ද දාන්න. මම ගන්න හෙට දවස් මම ෆ්‍රී. හෙට මම ෆ්‍රී ඉඳ අද මම කොහොමද මේක ඉවර කරගන්න. අද මගේ ටයිම් ෂෙඩියුල් එකට බෑ. But to get my point is AI. I read that article. I don't want a doctor. අර ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් කොහොම සර්ජරි එක විතරයි. Yes. එයා දෙනවා ලස්සනට මෙන්න බෙහෙත්. මෙන්න මේවා. මේ විදිහට කරන්න. ඒක හරියට යූස් කරන්න තමයි. ඒක මාර වැදගත් ජීවිතේ. Here 40 use kara AI වලින් ගත්ත articles 40. Now you are going to read the full text. Now you think ඉතින් අපි read කරන්නත් ඕනේ AI වලින් මේක කරන්න පුළුවන්. Yes. I will tell you how to do that. But you need to understand the logic now. That article ඔය කරන්න ගන්න කරලා නැහැ. Now you read articles 40 articles. When you read the 40 articles, every article has 5 chapters. When you read all the 5 chapters, you can't remember all the information. What was the and you maintain Excel sheet. When the Excel sheet working, you can attach as a working. Examiner reading the but data set. Here working, right? Right. It is not compulsory to attach to the report. මේ Excel sheet එකේ format එක මම මෙන්න මෙහෙම දෙනවා. Right? Number 1 you can article number. ලියාගන්න එපා එකපාරට ඕම ඉන්න. නැත්නම් මේ ලියන්න පටන් අහන් ඉන්නොත්. Article number you can have 1 2 3 and 40 articles you have. And you can have author. Author of the article you can say. That is Harvard reference. You can say Denscom 2017. This is the index citation. You have the reference. And then you can have topic. What the topic is, each article. Then you can have methodology. What the methodology that make use correct? Qualitative primary research, quantitative primary secondary research. Likewise, you have to say. एक आगे टॉपिक की या आगे methodology. And the theory is independent variable and dependent variable. Identify कर रहा पहले journal article लेके independent variable තුනක් theory සඳහා මේකේ හතරක් identify කරලා තියෙනවා. Then key factors. Dependent variable factors and dependent variable factors. You identify. And make a summary. This is what you need for your work, right? Then key findings. Positive relationship. Some article negative relationship. Likewise, you have to identify clear finding of the research. Finally, what are the recommendations they have identified? Make article. So you have to do this for the entire 40 articles. So when you finish this Excel sheet, you understand your knowledge. That is called literature review method. Then what existing knowledge you have a massive existing knowledge what work has been done. The card of the what argue karanda. What examiner question karanda. That is the level you must go. The lame ka on the topic ke karan koi lame state lame ka. Oh the state niyama topic ke. More practical. Right. Mama say topic ke karan. Make I suggest at least 5 journal articles. 5 journal articles manually current. Key on. What are the benefits of reading articles? You understand how to write. For example, when you read introduction, listen very carefully now. When you read introduction, 40 introductions when you read, you know how to write the introduction, no? So you have first chapter is introduction, you are also writing introduction. When you read 40 articles, 40 introductions, you get more knowledge. At least 5 journal articles read. Read right. Then I'm going to make a full one AI use over the quality journal article upload. Then you ask the question, please identify these key areas. Mathematically identify. Then you have to ask the summary. But you can use. But I suggest read. A articles A summary got it? This is my recommended format. Formatted here. Last one is recommendation. Handwriting last recommended. Author, topic, methodology, key theories, independent variable, key factors, independent variable, dependent, key findings and recommendations. Right? Online students, are you there? Did you write this? Can you see the whiteboard? Now listen very carefully. Writing of LR. Then what LR will you Then a chapter will you Mama, then a structure. I will give you a structure. You follow it. This is not a hard and fast rule. Well, now when you also read some literature review, all the journal articles, you also understand some pattern and all. But you can use this one also. Right? But end of the day, this is chapter number 2. 2.1, you can get introduction. Every chapter from here onwards, you have to have an introduction. Got to introduce the purpose. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of LR? Chapter 2. You have to very briefly, one small paragraph, you have to write small. 3-4 sentences, you have to write what is the purpose of doing LR. We discussed. What is the purpose of doing LR? What is the purpose of doing LR? Number 1, to identify the history. History means what? No, Emily and history. History to identify the research gap. That is the main purpose of doing the LR. Number 2, identify the theories and factors of the topic. Right? And identify the key relationships between the independent and dependent variables. Right? So that is the LR. And purpose is identify the research gap. That is the introduction. 2.2. Right? 2.2. Industry overview. Property industry overview, estate plantation industry. You have to use small overview. Right. When you write the industry, remember that. Especially you have to mention the industry how contribute to GDP is important. What is the contribution to GDP? As a your industry, what is that? Right? Ek feature clear industry can overview. What is your industry? Right? This is one feature. GDP contribute but you can use more numbers. More numbers you can use. Even the qualitative researchers, you can use more numbers here. Doesn't matter. Even the qualitative researcher, you can bring the numbers here when you write the industry. Two 2.3. Theoretical framework of topic capital expenditure on financial performance. Theoretical framework of capital expenditure. Again, independent variable theoretical framework of capital expenditure. This is where you show your knowledge to the examiner about your theories and the factors. Your theoretical framework knowledge, this is where you can show your examiner how strong you are with the theories regarding your topic. Right? Now under this you can subcategory 2.31 you can get key theories, right? Key theories. You can get theory 1, theory 2, theory 3, theory 4 you can explain. You have to explain. You got to explain with references. Then what theories kata karo? Theory 1. What is the theory number 1? You explain with the references. How applicable this theory to your topic, capital expenditure. Correct? If you sample share karana passe point epa, you can refer to that. Sample note na you have to understand, you can read and understand, right? We have with the references. We have called and theory sadra kati. Four theories enough. Four theories. You have to explain the theory with the references, right? And then 2.3.2 key factors of the independent variable. Factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, and factor 4. Factor 2 tadra cancel. Plain with references. Knowledge. You know separately theories, you know separately what are the factors impact on the capital expenditure. One factor may be company budget, company cash flow situation, right? Factor on this, you have to identify your key factors of your topic, your independent variable. Remember that. Then after that, two point four. Only independent variable. Can someone suggest 2.4? Now we 2.3 then theoretical framework of independent variable. What is the 2.4? Theoretical framework of dependent variable. Now you can say theoretical framework of financial performance. That is dependent variable. Parana puthe last time bagi structure ka industry you discuss kar. Plantation industry as agri topic. Yeah, I independent and dependent variable you discuss karo separately. Now you cover the entire topic, no? You explain the industry and you explain the theories and factors of the independent and the dependent. Right? And look at that. 2.4.1 you can take key theories. Same format. Theory 1, theory 2, theory 3, theory 4 you have to explain. And 2.4.2 key factors. 1, 2, 3, factor 4. Right? Now you completed up to this point entire theories and factors of your topic. You know that. The mega on the separate factors. Those are the factors influencing your topic. Influencing determinants to the independent and dependent variable. Then why class එකට වෙලාවට එන්න ඕන factors මොනවද? Tell me. Coming on time. What are the factors influencing your coming on time? Number one. There are factors කීයක තේරෙනවද ඔබට? அது பழைய factor එක වෙලාවට පන්තියට එන්න ඕන. මොනවද influencing factors? හා? Discipline එක ගත්තම ඔක්කොම මේක ඇතුළට යනවා. Separate කරන්න. Your distance, your transportation, your financial problems. නේද මේ ඔක්කොම බලපන්නේ නැද්ද? girlfriend උත් බලපන්න. එල්ල කියනවා හතාමානටම හම්බෙන්න ඕන අනිවාර්ය වෝල්ටේජ් එක. ඒක මොකද වෙන්නේ? හම්බෙන්න වෙන්න බෑ. හම්බෙන්න බෑ. අනිත් factors තමයි වාගේ impact වෙන වෙලාවට එන්නේ. එහෙනම් factors තමයි ඔය හොයාගන්න ඕනේ for the financial performance and capital expenditure. The early research articles they have clearly identified all these. Now 2.5. Relationship between capital expenditure, you put it your topic, huh? Capital expenditure and financial performance. You write your topic, huh? You have to very clearly identify the relationship, no? So when you read the journal articles and all, you clearly identify. අපේ format එක එකක් තමයි මොකද finding නේ. Under the finding section, you identify the entire article they ended up with. They may say this is a positive relationship. There's a positive relationship. When company do more replanting, more capital expenditure and all, that directly impact on the financial performance and all. So you got to prove that finally, but you have to bring it here as a theory, as a literature review. You have to use few references to prove this, to prove that whether positive relationship, whether negative relationship, or no relationship. And then on the point there. Now, when you go through the 40 journal articles, there is no consistency of the results, findings. Some article says positive relationship. Some article says negative relationships. Some article says no relationships. So what do you trust? You can take majority, but you also based on the sample. That is a research gap. Inconsistencies in the findings. Another research gap. So when you go through the article, you can clearly identify no consistency in the findings and the results. So that is where I am going to identify, no? I am going to identify what is exactly the relationship. Got it? That is where you are quantitative researchers. That is where you are going to use some companies collecting the data and analyze and show that. Now, I had manufacturing TST listed TST companies 10 විතර ගන්න. 10 කරගන්න. අවුරුදු 10ක විතර data collect කරගන්න. Collect කරලා analyze කරලා coming up with yes, of course, positive relationship in Sri Lankan context. Another knowledge. Got it? එනවා මෙතන පැහැදිලිව කියනවා what sort of relationship has been identified. Maybe different relationship you can bring it. Some article with the reference you can say they say that this is a negative relationship. Some article says it's a positive relationship. You have to mention this under the 2.5. Right. 2.6. 2.6. Research gap. You have to very clearly write your research gap. Paper research gap with the references. With references, you have to justify this is my research. .7 is optional. This is optional. What about method? You can draft theoretical framework. What a method diagram mega. You can bring it here diagram of your theoretical framework. Optional. Either here or either method of analysis. That is chapter number 3. Or method or chapter number 3. Optional. Now I have drafted your theoretical framework. Boxes, theories, factors. One of the diagram you can bring it. The relationship you have to show very clearly. Independent variable factors, how impact on the dependent variable factors. That is what you are going to evaluate. The independent variable factors sometimes positively impact on the dependent variable factors. So you have to have a diagram, sketch of this theoretical framework. Then finally 2.8 you can have summary of the chapter. What is summary of the chapter? Right? You have very strong points you agree. Section wise color. How many words? How much? I suggested. What the word count will make 2,500 approximately you can use 2,500. 2,500. Right, any questions? Any questions? That make a year of you can write. The Ogat AI will get them a structure to make a year. Good, I correct. Have you correct? Go to jail. Otherwise, you will be caught as the plagiarism, similarity, AI. Pandana Mehe University, ape foreign universities, 100% check kara software, 38 softwares. Allano Comer. AI Alla, why you get no? Get a mama in the Viva panel, I will ask. You can see that so many questions I will test. I will test this authenticity of work. Me other curriculum. Some works outsource me. All outsource kar I know any other Facebook research deal. Research deal from Tino. Even the Nakala. Tara research. I does other in that. You spend your parents' money, not your money. How better now? I actually can better. Your money. Good. How did you argue with Sally with Uncle Atosa? Your money. Then they took the kid. Anita, you're spending your parents' money. Give a well. What do you know? Technology, you know, okay. Make what you want to make a young money. Aham to make poem a year. Then you can read it and you can write your own words. Enjoy the research. Abhinang, Patavatagan, Mama, a PhD, Karama, UK. I enjoy my life. My research. Private research, 4 years. You also same thing. For the next 1 year, enjoy this research. Can I get a only got to get to Pulu. Full day work. And you build up your relationships and many things. Contacts. Was a private research and you go and discuss some points with some pillars and a relationship. Enjoy. You can make a pass to a woman and don't do that. Now, I enjoy my lecture. Otherwise, I can't do my job. I think I can upload the you must first make an interest on this. Right? Then this is the most difficult part of your journey, literature review. Make a Karachi and ready, right? Hey, you know all the results, you know all the details, you have it. Right? Now let's move into the chapter 3. Chapter 5 then you know the structure. No? Then next week I will start detailed discussion of methodology. Primary research check the second research check the quantitative the qualitative then I will spend my more time on that. Right? And next 2 sessions today I will somehow cover up your entire structure. Then you have the structure. Right, methodology also. So you know your methodology also that in starting 3.1 is introduction. Introduce your chapter, right? Introduce the chapter. Chapter 3 you got to introduce. Methodology is what? Now you discussed. So we discuss at the proposal level your methodology. You know your methodology. Methodology. Okay. methodology. then you know your own methodology. Here. Now, what proposal is done with me? Our method of analysis is done. Mangan एक. एक दान में लिया क्या? तो बोला एक बार ना अपना हम पे एक का कोड के लियो यार सेक्शन वाइज. एक कर तीन और. methodology को मैंने एक कर बेचना. Go. Another methodology. Type of research, secondary research. Research approach, deductive approach. Method of choice, qualitative research. And research study, systematic review. Data analysis method, thematic analysis. Perfect. Yeah, madam, yes, what about the what the work KPM. You are naming? Below naming? You are Tonda Yonde, right? Yes. The good advice 21. Very good. And 11 take a last Sunday other anything. Yeah, I can methodology. Very clear. Right? And this is what we are going to introduce. The methodology means how data collect and how data analyze. Right? Here you introduce your entire research onion. Make a liaga research onion kill among other years they never bind the strategy. Research onion. Abi dano onion ke dano ni? Ara lunu ke diye. Mahar kata wakka. That their professor Saunders. The professor name he introduced with some two colleagues. Saunders, Thornhill. 3 colleagues. Thornhill. मैं तुमने ना मुझे करे इंट्रोड्यूस करा रिसर्च अनियन में का मैं करेगा अनियन में कौन में का मैं के तीनों 6 लेयर्स मैं के तीनों में लेयर्स है 6 लेयर्स हमें मेंटल नॉलेज की डिवाइड है मैं लेयर्स है पील करने की लगी है रिसर्च You go to P. एक layer गलवान की लगी। पंगे layer stick को कोला कता का नहीं बस। पर last stick के गलवान में दूर ने ओगलो लिया करते ये layer साहे दामा। Research philosophy, research approach. पर ये ना बाय ने बोल दे दिया research strategy, method of choice, right? And data collection and all, right? As you know, I am monkey, right? A layers, think about feel करना पड़ता, right? ऐसा होता है, एक तो मैं जो introduce करा ने, एक तो मैं में, क्या तो जंग मैं की दी, वहाँ गाना मुलीम में 4.2, sorry 3.2, 3.2 है गाना Annual layers for Tiano. Now you are going to the layers. First layer you can get research philosophy. How many research philosophies are there? Positivism. हम यार detail कथा कर रहे हो बाहर में बाहर interpretive research and pragmatism. You have to choose your philosophy. Philosophy you are doing a qualitative research, no, but secondary, right? Your most applicable philosophy is qualitative research. This is the philosophy, interpretive research. For the quantitative research, positivism. Pragmatism what अभी करेंगे, designing a new framework or module. अभी हम क्या करेंगे हमने? अभी लियान का होने हमें research philosophy को बड़ा explain करना होने. So I will show you how to do that. For the moment, you can do your self studies. What is interpretivism, propositivism before I start? Small paragraph you have to write. What is my philosophy? Right. Why do I need to go next week onwards? Next week onwards, I will use methodology. And then your philosophy will pass 3.3. You can get method of choice. That very clearly says your method of choice. And there are method of choices, qualitative method, quantitative method, and mixed method. Where select karaganna? Mama suggest karan ne mixed method. I don't suggest mixed method. It's a work much. It are dekha karan ne. Qualitative and quantitative both much work. Either quantitative, either qualitative, you have to choose. Massive that most of the students you are going to do a quantitative research. Some students based on the topic cannot. You can do a qualitative research. Impact of the financial performance now 100% quantitative. If you are going to identify the perceptions, right, attitudes, some sort of qualitative things, yes, you can do a qualitative factors. Right? And 3.4, research approach. How to write your research approach? Right? There are a few approaches. Deductive approach, inductive approach, abductive approach. Most of your research approach is what? Deductive. Deductive means what? Based on the theories, you are going to test your hypotheses and finding your conclusions. You are not going to create a new theory. Deductive approach always based existing theories. Inductive always create a new theory or module. But deductive is mixed of both. हम ओगोल्ड में रिसर्च चेक करें छुट्टे छुट्टे और मुड़े दाढ़ने हैं तब पलेट जाओ सा याद है बेड़ों में तीन नॉलेज है तीनों नहीं थे हाँ that is what एक प्रोडक्ट पे लिया ना ये में पेन करना दो कोई this is the structure But anyway, you are going to read 40 journal articles. A article has methodology. So you have a practice. When you read, you know how to read. Then 3.5. Research strategy. Under this research strategy, you have to very clearly say, you have to very clearly mention whether it is a primary or secondary. You have to very clearly say your research is primary research or secondary research. And also, we have to if you are a primary researcher, if you are conducting a primary research, you have to very clearly mention how data collect. Again, interviews, questionnaires, survey, research strategy. If you are doing a secondary research, so you are using a systematic review. Denscom 2017, I have given last week. Denscom 2017. Understand? I'm making a in detail how to do a systematic review. Random will get a team and see it on one. Now we start. So far, you studied the systematic review. Right. Inclusion and exclusion is part of the systematic review. Today we discuss inclusion and exclusion is part of the systematic review. But when you are based on secondary data. Remember that. Secondary data, you are very clearly mentioned you are based on secondary data. May secondary data can go over the journal articles, annual reports, publications. You have to very clearly mention here your sample and your period. What's your period data collect karna? You have to very clearly mention this. Are you annual report use karna? Companies, these are my companies. Last 10 years data I am going to collect. You have to very clearly mention to the example. Right. Again, whether data collect data collection independent variable collect data dependent variable annual report collect evaluate factors, factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, factor 4, factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, factor 4. Annual report collect then the factors, how important factors that were or data collect what theories for the data collect you can't collect the data or theories no factors. Now, for example, financial performance. Maybe dependent variable financial performance. Maybe the ROE, ROA, right? Net profit, gross profit. Sorry, earning per share. On the other hand, report of the selected companies. You have to decide what are the information you are going to collect. Independent variable. Array that. Then have 2 point here. Now go to the 2.6. So you have to very clearly mention, right? You have to very clearly mention your data analysis method. You have to very clearly mention. Right? Maybe you are using holiday. Maybe you are using quantitative. මෙන්න මේ section එකේ තමයි you කතා කරන්නේ. But data analyze කරන්න යන්නේ කොහොමද? Qualitative now you are using what? Thematic analysis. Brown and Clark. 2006. Quantitative research or technical use करने descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, regression analysis, t-test, ANOVA. Okay, दिया एवा मामा suggest करने में पार्लियामेंट तुना you got to use. You have to, under this paragraph, you have to mention your data analysis current form. So when I start to reading, when I teaching that how to do thematic analysis and quantitative analysis, especially quantitative analysis, students, why you can know and you are research know how to use SPSS software. Study software use करना. Once you collect the data, make it analysis second lesson. It's a software. SPSS. Right? And same thing can be done. The analysis is I will show you later. Excel lege karana. Excel lege three option data analysis kiya. You can do that. Right? Descriptive correlation study. But once you collect the data, right? Then they run in the place in accurate. You have to work on this. And now you are getting the knowledge. Then I will discuss in detail how to do that. Right? The descriptive in detail. You have a part to study how to operate the software and Excel. Excel part of right. 2.7. 3.7. 3.7. Right? 3.7. You can have that. Descriptive summary. How the primary research करें? वो Lanka secondary है. The university hallmark ना मेरे आपको secondary करना है. आप कारण पास हो गया आपको primary. चलो हाँ primary करना ही ना तो करना पड़ेगा. But descriptive summary किया ने you have Excel sheet. You remember you have Excel sheet. Under Excel sheet के summary का you can insert here. एक और दान पुलवान author, right? And what is the topic? What is the methodology? And what is the research? Summary. Make an executive that pull. Make අදහස තමයි exam එක දන්නවා ඔයා මේ journal article 40 page කරන් තමයි මේ වැඩේ කරන්නේ. You have to say that under the descriptive summary. These are my final 40 journal articles. This is the summary of my 40 journal articles and all. I develop my report from here onwards from this 40 articles. Make a tama you are use karenge. This is what you are use. You are going to use. Right? The discussion chapter. By chapter 4 එක ලියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ summary base කරන් තමයි. මතක තියාගන්න. 40 journal articles. හරිනේ? Then finally 2.8 you can have summary. What is summary? Yes, clear the chapter එක අපි කරමු. Let's see. හරිද? That is chapter 3. දැන් ඔයාලට idea එකක් එනවා. Chapter 1 we completed, chapter 2, not chapter 3. Chapter 3 again, some areas I will discuss in detail. Thematic analysis, quantitative analysis, I will discuss. But you know that your approach. Right? Then we are moving to the body break. Right? Over the months, yeah, how many months? 2.8 to 3.8. Then we'll do chapter 4. Discussion. Chapter එක අපි හරියටම හම් වෙනවා. අනේ කට්ටිය එන්න ඕනේ 10:30. What is right, let's start. Discussion chapter. Now, I ended up with the descriptive summary, the chart. Your 40 journal articles summary. You know all the findings of the 40 journal articles now. Every journal article, you know the key findings. And also, make up the other qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative researcher, they are going to write your discussion based on the thematic analysis. Remember that. Based on the thematic analysis. Based on the key themes. Based on the key themes. Key themes equal your key factors. Remember that. You have already identified key factors of the independent and dependent variable. Right? Now, under the qualitative researcher, so he can design that you can have an introduction. Then you can start with the key factors of the right key factors of the capital expenditure. Independent variable independent variable right? Independent variable introduction. Right? Then you can have 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 you can have key factors of the financial performance. That is dependent variable. So you are under this each heading you are discussing in detail your results. Each factor how impact on the independent variable, each factor how impact on your dependent variable. And then you discuss 4.4. 4.4 relationship between capital expenditure and financial performance. Now here in detail you discuss based on your articles and all what sort of relationship has been identified. And 4.5 strategies develop the financial performance. You can bring some strategies, right? That is 4.5, right? And 4.6 you can have future research opportunities. Small para, right? Every research comes in with creating a next platform for the next research. Every research. relay pattern research creating a platform. Creating a platform for future research. What is the current benefits of this research? But due to some limitations, you cannot achieve the entire scope. You have some limitations. What are the limitations? You stick to one geography. You stick to one industry. Stick to time framework, only one methodology and all. But you identify so many benefits. You suggest the future researchers, you can start this topic. You can further carry on this topic in detail. When you do the literature review, my dear students, remember very carefully, you will come across, you will meet this section each and every article. That is a nice platform. You can start your research. Research benefits, you can do your research. Another platform. Right? And then finally, 2.7. Summary, sorry, 4.7. Summary. This is qualitative thematic analysis, students. Now, when it's come to the quantitative, and the challenge quantitative, same thing under the discussion chapter, you are bringing the results and findings. You are bringing the results and findings. Both qualitative or quantitative, you bring in the results of findings in detail. You are justifying here, you are achieving your research objectives and your research aims. Qualitatively, this is the format you can follow, right? Quantitative students, you are doing descriptive analysis, regression analysis, correlation analysis. You achieve your objectives. You achieve your objectives numerically. Atana text, Atana will a non-numerical, this is numerical. With the numbers you achieve, your objective. Enam method descriptive analysis එක දාලා ඒ stats ආපු result එක දාලා you write your descriptive summary. ඊළඟ regression එක වාලියන correlation එක වාලියන in detail you are write quantitative research students. හරි? දරෝම ලියන විදිය මම කියලා දෙනවා. Data analysis, data collection, I will see, but you got to do that, right? ඊළඟ අපි මේක fine tune කරන future. Make up fine tune karna future right clear video comma, but now you know the idea. Chapter 4 is entirely you bringing your results and findings to the topic, sorry, to the chapter to prove that you achieve your objectives. Whatever your objectives you now look at that, you have to design your objectives according to this. If you design your objective, you cannot achieve, you cannot justify you have achieved your objective. Now you revisit your objective. You can change. Always factors are important. Remember that, right? Got it? Now I structure को उड़ा कर तरफ से अभी मेरे खाता करने को ready है. Chapter को बना हरने. Now आप जानना data analysis के बेहतर करना हो या हरने लिया हो नहीं. Right? We'll discuss how to do that. Right? I have. हम मेरे आधार notes सबको मंगाती हूँ. I will share with you once I finish. साब मंग एक note tag तो और दिया नहीं है. Audit that. End of the day, I will share all the details. Then you can go. But note tag देने थी एक बार देख था. But note tag नहीं तो ना तो कौन उधर तेल लाती नहीं था. You understand the entire research. You have notes yourself. But note tag तो लोगों को लिया नहीं हो. लोगों को लिया ना. That's good. Right? Then again note tag ते quarter pull come back. Right? And finally, what is the chapter 5? What is the chapter 5? Conclusion and recommendation. This is your own conclusion. This is the conclusion means mini version of discussion chapter. Mini version. Not in detail, your conclude. That is your final conclusion. In your final conclusion, my research article abstract. Then I quickly jump into the conclusion chapter. Then I know exactly the researcher, he has achieved his objectives. What the result, what the final results, what the final result, you have to bring it here very strongly. You have to link, you got to link to the introduction. Under the introduction, you have very clearly identified your research aim and the objectives. Under the conclusion chapter, you got to link that this is my research aim and I clearly identified based on the results I identified in the discussion chapter. No need any reference. No need any reference. This is your own conclusion. Your conclusion based on the results so far, what you gained, what you found, right? That is the conclusion. Strong conclusion. Hari report. 40 journal articles, when you read the chapter 5, you can understand how they write conclusion and all. That is the benefit of reading the journal articles. Have a chapter articles, how do you write? And finally, you can say that recommendations. Recommendations. The recommendation park the higher married park 5 to 10. 5 to 10 recommendations you can see. Right. You can really bring it the 5 to 10 recommendations. Some recommendation future research. Well, some recommendation here future research oriented. Future research or you recommend. Some recommendation you bring with references. Part of Excel sheet column. You go Excel sheet column. That is how you link. And recommendation. End of the day, your recommendation. Your final objective is strategies and recommendation. No, final objective. Always final objective is strategies and recommendation. Strategies we identify under the discussion chapter. Recommendation now you are bringing here. Got it? Right? May have lazy chapters. Here, again the references list. अब मेरे देखिए ना in text citations. Sampurna alphabetic code A, B, C. First letter. Based on the first letter in alphabetic code, you are putting your references, but not a in-text citation reference. Make a long, extended version. Like articles, body of the report short form. But long form. References list. References list in-text citations. In-text citations. Make it possible any annexures. Quantitative data sheet of annexes. Any annexes you can put. Correct? Correct? Here I want 10,000 structure, but annexes is not part of the word count. Word count is chapter 1 to 5. No table of content executive summary. Now I draft your final structure in summary. Right? Title page. Executive summary. Abstract. Table of content. Right? Then you can start introduction. Literature review. Methodology. Discussion. Conclusion and recommendation. References. Actions. Another pulu. Okay, format in condition. Well, final reporting format. So they are IT grant entity and other all one attendance market. Idea full report idea. Now you have a structure. This is what my purpose. Insert your mind the entire structure now you know. Right? දැන් වැඩි තේරෙනවද? පන්තියෙන් නැතුව listen කරන්නේ නැතුව lectures අහන්න නැතුව මේක කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? You can't do that. Right? දැන් ඔයාට ඕනම කෙනෙක් ඇහුවොත් research එකේ report එක ගැන කියන්න පුළුවන් ඕන තරම් දෙයක්. Right? But next week I will start discussion methodology එක detail යනවා next couple of weeks. ඒක තමයි දෙක. ඒක මම detail කතා කරන ඕනොත් එක්ක කොහොමද මේක කරන්නේ? Got it? Right, thank you very much. Attendance marks කරගත්තා.